Hey guys, ThropDead here, and I have been challenged to beat every game in my Steam library, starting at the top, working my way down. I've just finished game number 5, a game called Agarest Generations of War. Agarest Generations of War is a JRPG with elements of dating sim in it. You can see the world map here. As you run around, each of these points is an event. I'll just jump into the next one here. I'd say about 60% of the game is spent in this battle system. It's very traditional, grid-based, turn-based RPG. So I will just show you how this works. Each turn is split into 2 different phases. Phase 1 is the movement phase. You choose where your characters go. And then once you're done, all the enemy move. And then phase 2 is the action phase, where you get to choose what abilities your characters use. I have got, where I finished the game, I am playing this on New Game Plus, so not to spoil the story. In New Game Plus you carry over your items, your weapons, your skills. There's a lot of stuff you carry over into the new game, which includes enemies. You can capture enemies, certain enemies you can capture and train up and have fight alongside you. So I've got a couple here, the eye and the skeleton thing, fighting alongside me. So they're very powerful. They're going to kill most of the enemies in one shot at this part of the game, but obviously you don't have this first time you play through. You also have all these abilities and stuff you'll unlock as the game goes on, but if you've already finished, you've already got. So the start of the game is the most boring part of the game, because you don't have anything unlocked. You have to earn these as you go through them. The combat gets interesting with the formation system. So if you have a look at one of these characters, say this character here, the blue squares are where other characters can stand. If another character stood in one of the squares that's lit up, those 2 characters are connected, and when they're connected you can combine their abilities. So if I show you on this one, if I use a skill on this thing and then use, I think it's rush and trick hit, you see it puts it into a combo, and then if you use that it does an even more powerful attack where you have 2 or 3 or 4 or even up to all 6 characters attacking in one turn. You can also chain attacks as well, so you can have all characters attack. If they're all connected, you can have all characters attack at the same time, which is a very key part of the combat system. And as I say, later on in the game it gets more interesting. When you level up, you assign your points to different characteristics of your characters, and so you can put these up and down. Most of them are direct upgrades. So if I put strength up, you see the attack goes up, and if I put agility up, the hit and avoid should go up. However, the vitality, it influences the increase of HP. So every time your character levels up, their HP automatically goes up. The amount it goes up is determined by their vitality. So if you want a character with high HP, or you want your characters to have high health later on in the game, that's a very important stat to put up early on. So it doesn't directly affect the HP, but it's an important part to know if you're trying to get into the game and you're looking you're trying to get into the game and you don't want it to be too difficult later on. I'll just put these 2 characters up. So yeah, the fighting system is the most interesting. All the battlefields are the same. You can choose in the menu the layout of your party. Nope, let me find the right one here. So you go to field, you can choose different layouts for your characters. It's the start of the fight, but every fight is like that wherever you are. Sometimes you get surprise fights where your characters are out of position, and sometimes they are set boards, but generally you'll have the same ones throughout the whole game. So it can get quite repetitive. You're fighting hundreds if not thousands of fights throughout the game, and they do take quite a while, and they are all quite very similar. So that's an important part. If you think you might enjoy that part of the game, that's what I'd recommend the game fully on the battle system, because that's what you're going to spend the majority of your time doing. You do spend about 30% of the time in these chat systems. There are no cutscenes in the game. as such. There is a lot of talking, a lot of exposition, a lot of story building. These are all done with character sprites. Occasionally there are facial expression changes, or you'll hear a sound effect, but and it's all fully voice acted in Japanese as well. There's no English voice acting, but it's all fully voice acted in Japanese. And these go on for a bit. Story, it is a good story. There are a lot of characters as well. There's some interesting characters, some funny characters. Each generation, it's set over 5 generations. So in this one you play Leonard, and towards the end of the generation you pick from one of 3 women you can woo throughout the game, and then depending on who you choose depends on how your character fights in the 2nd generation, and then the same happens to the 3rd and the 4th. Which is interesting, so that's where the elements of dating sim come in. You have to choose the right response when the characters ask you certain questions, and that determines how much they like or don't like you, and the more they like you, the more powerful your offspring's going to be. I don't think we're going to see any of that because we've not met any of the characters in this playthrough yet. It does take quite a while to progress through the game. I say the end game is much more interesting once you've unlocked all the abilities. New Game Plus would be interesting, but starting without having anything unlocked is kind of frustrating and can make the start of the game very slow. There is DLC available. If you buy the game on Steam, you automatically get a load of DLC, and these weapons are weapons you can use throughout the game. They are some of the most powerful weapons in the game, which when I first saw I wasn't quite sure about, but as I played it more I realised that it's more fun once you have more stuff, once you unlock more stuff, and having those weapons helps the game run a bit faster. To make the game run faster, there is frame rate issues that people have been having. You can fix that. There is comments in the forum about that. So this is only running about 25 frames a second at the moment. Apparently you can speed it up and make it a bit quicker. You can also skip text by pressing the X button on the controller, which makes things a bit quicker. You can also turn off animations and movement in battles, which probably about half the time you spend in battles. So if you go to the pause menu, you can go to options and you can turn effects and movement off, which in my opinion is worth doing. There is about 10% of the game is spent in these exploration points, the things that say quest. If you jump into one of these, you don't get these very often, and they're probably the worst part of the game. They are very repetitive. You often get the same part twice, and they will reuse assets and stuff, and then there's no reason to explore other than the chest and finding items and stuff. You run over and grab this and then run up here. B on the controller is a jump button. At no point does it tell you there's a jump button either, which I had to find out by myself. It took me about half an hour. I was running around this area trying to work out where to go, and then I realised there was a jump button. So that's important to know if you are playing this game or you're stuck on this area. Press B to jump. Let's get into another fight here. As you go through the game, I'll have to show you this in a moment. You get a light, dark and neutral rating, and you want to try and stay. There's 3 different endings depending on whether you're light, neutral or dark at the end of it. There is a perfect ending which you have to do quite specific things for, so you're probably going to need a guide if you're going to try and get the perfect ending. For New Game Plus, to carry items and stuff over in New Game Plus, you can only carry it over to the same difficulty. So if you play in normal, you can only do New Game Plus in normal and carry your items over. This does mean if you are intending to see the true ending at any point, even if you don't want to do it in your first playthrough, if you don't want to do it, you need to play the game in hard to see everything. Which means if you want to play through it the first time, you'll need to play through it on hard, and then when you do New Game Plus, you can carry your items over and then try and get the true ending then. The DLC can be turned on and off at the start of the game. I would turn it on. Like I say, the start of the game is the most boring part of the game, so anything that makes that go quicker is probably beneficial. You can not use the weapons, or you can like sell them and then just use the money and stuff and play the game as you normally would play. But I don't think the DLC, like I say, even though they are overpowered, I don't think it really detracts from the experience. You still need to learn combos, you still need to work out proper tactics to win the game. Let's try and get through here. And that's pretty much all the game has to offer. I'll just go to a town in a second. I don't know what we've unlocked in the towns, but I'll try and get to one to show you the town system. It's not really anything. It is mostly concentrating on the combat system. Jump into a town here, see what we have unlocked. So you've got the blacksmith, who can create weapons. You can see you get the items on the right there, and you have to work out what you need to get them and build them and stuff. You have different things like the Adventurers Guild, where you can earn titles for doing certain things. So you see mine have carried over from the previous generation. And if you unlock these, you get different items and stuff. And then it gives the game some replay value, and after you finish it you can go back and try and work out, like, not got this one, which is defeat 2,400 monsters, so that was something I could work towards. You earn TP, which unlocks these, and when you buy them you get new combos unlocked. So we go to the camp menu and then go up to data. We can see the esoteric books, which you find through the game, show you all the different combos you can do. There's 149 of them altogether. I say when you start you don't have any of these, you find them as you go through, so they are quite they are the most interesting part of the game. I think that's pretty much all there is to show in the game. Personally, I thought it was very long. I say 84 hours. It didn't need to be that. The learning curve is quite. It's not the easiest game to learn, but then once you've learned it, it doesn't really develop that quickly, and you'd end up doing the same battles 4 or 5 times over like an hour. You can do the same battles, and once you've got your tactics sorted, there's not really much else to do. You just have to go through the game till you get to the end. There were a couple of difficulty spikes. I know the end of the 3rd generation was very difficult. The end of the 4th, and even the end of the 5th, the end of the last few generations were all very difficult. The bosses you fought were much more difficult than the normal enemies you found. So it's not a perfectly balanced game. I think it would have been better with about a quarter of the number of fights and stuff you get in. If the progression was quicker, you unlock more stuff more quickly, and there was encouragement to play around with stuff. There is a prequel called Agarest Zero. They've got different translations depending on what console they run. So on PC it's Agarest Generations of War, and the sequel called Agarest Zero. There is also Agarest Generations of War 2, which has just come out. At the time of recording it was released yesterday, which means this version is available for £2.74, 75% off at the moment. And for that price, I would recommend it. I mean, 80 hours for £2, not too bad. I do think you need to be into the battle system to really appreciate the game. And yeah. I do think you need to really enjoy the fighting system and learning combos and trying to get the most efficient way of beating enemies. If you're into that sort of thing, I think you will really enjoy this game. I don't think it's the best RPG out there. It doesn't really give much in the way of player choice. You've got the light, dark and neutral system, but it's often difficult to tell what option's going to push you where on the scale. So you can agree with someone and then get put into dark, and then they like you less, and it's not very clear what's going to lead to what. Which means if you want to get the true ending, you are probably going to need a guide. So yeah, I think if you're willing to put the time into it, I definitely think it's worth looking at. But it obviously isn't for everyone. I say it can be very repetitive, very slow. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much me done. You can subscribe to us here to see my next video, which is going to be Agarest Zero. So it's going to be another 70 hours of gameplay, I'd imagine. So it's probably going to be a little while before that video gets uploaded. You can, however, follow me in the meantime over on Twitch, where I will be playing it live and trying out a few other things in the meantime, because I need a little break from JRPGs for a bit. Cheers for watching, guys, and till next time, have a good day.